welcome back to my channel. What I'm doing today is another video on how to make your nose look smaller and thinner and shorter, but this time you're going to be doing it using creams and liquids. If you watched my last video on how to make your nose look smaller, you'll know that I was using powders. This is brilliant if you have more of a dry skin or you just feel more comfortable using liquids and creams. I just remembered one thing I did want to talk to you about was on my last nose contouring video, one question that I got asked a lot was, if you have a bump on your nose, what do you do? So basically, if you have a bump on your nose, it's the exact same deal. So say your nose had a bump on it right about there. When you're drawing your two lines, don't go around the bump because that's just going to highlight the bump. So you want to go directly over the top of the bump. So no matter what is on your nose, what kind of bumps you have, whether your nose is crooked, it doesn't matter. What you want to do is look straight on at yourself in the mirror and draw two parallel lines down. So make sure your lines are straight, because the straighter your lines are, the straighter your nose is going to look, and anything that those lines are drawn over is going to get pushed back. So remember, when you use a darker shade, it's going to push everything that you put that on backwards. Does that make sense? Okay, so for my nose contour shade, I will be using the Ben Nye Media Pro Sheer HD Foundation. Taking a little bit of this onto that brush, and I'm taking the excess off on my hand. So you don't want to go in with it too heavy because it's going to be way too hard to blend out and you're going to end up with a mess. So make sure you do take the excess off on the back of your hand so that you're working with a small amount at a time. What you're going to do is draw two lines down each side of your nose. The closer the lines are together, the thinner it's going to make your nose look. The wider they are apart, the wider it's going to make your nose look. I'm going to draw mine fairly close together because I already have a wide nose and I want to make it appear thinner.
I just noticed that I have little furs on my face from my powder brush. That is embarrassing.
So what you're going to do is look into your mirror straight on and draw two lines down each side of your nose, and you're going to join them up underneath the tip of your nose. You're not going to be starting up here like some people do, because why would you? You're going to be starting basically where your eyes start. That's where you want to start your lines, and that's where you want to kind of start the bridge of your nose. So I'm starting right here and drawing down. Like that. Try and get them as straight as possible. Mine is not very straight, so I'm gonna have to fix that, but try and get them as straight as possible, because if your lines are kind of like squiggly and wonky, it's gonna make your nose look like that as well. So the straighter your lines look, the straighter your nose will look as well. There. So I've joined the lines up underneath my nose, and I've got two lines on either side of my nose. So now what I'm going to do is take all of the excess of that product off my brush. Just I'm doing it on the back of my hand, so I've just got quite a mess there, so that my brush is pretty much naked. And then I'm going to use that same brush just to blend these lines out a little bit. I'm just sweeping them to the side. What I'm going to do is take my finger, it's got to be a clean finger, and you're basically just going to run down the length of those lines, and that's going to make the lines look less harsh, and it's going to make your blending a lot easier. Try not to blend your lines away, because then that will defeat the purpose of putting the lines there to begin with. So you just want to blend them out, but still keeping the integrity of those lines. So still make sure that the lines are straight and that you've got them where you want them, but just make sure that they're not obvious lines. You want them to basically appear like shadows down either side of your nose. That's what you want. So mine is starting to get blended in now. I'm blending it underneath my nose, onto the tops of my nostrils like that, because that's also going to make my nose appear shorter. And then taking my finger and running along the edges of those lines just to soften them. I'm taking my lines all the way down. I'm taking my lines all the way down the sides of my nose so that they are blended away to nothing, but I'm going to fix that by applying a highlight shade there to make this area not look so bulbous. For my highlight shade, I will be using my foundation, which is the one that I applied all over my face, and this is the Revlon Color Stay for combination oily skin, and the color is 180 Sand Beige. So I'm taking a small amount of that onto the back of my hand like that, and using this Real Techniques foundation brush, it is their angled foundation brush, I'm going to be applying this highlight shade down either side of my nose. So I know that sounds completely ridiculous, like it's ruining everything you just did, but I'm not applying it the same way that I just did. So my contour line is here. I'm going to be applying my highlight line next to it. So what that's doing is it's making part of my nose look like it's actually cheek and not nose. So again, that's going to make your nose look more narrow. I'm not going to apply any darker shades because I think that's made my nose look pretty thin as it is, well, as thin as my nose is going to get. What I am going to do, however, is draw a little contour line above the tip of my nose, and what that does is it makes your nose look like it's got a little curve to it. So I don't know if you can see, but my nose is pretty much straight up, straight down, and I like it to look like it's got a bit of a pig nose curl to it. I don't know how else to explain it. I'm taking a little bit of my original contour color on my original concealer brush. So find where the tip of your nose is, and then you want to draw this line above that. So you don't want to contour on the exact tip of your nose because that's going to make it look like you don't really have the tip of your nose because it's going to push it back. So you want that to remain highlighted, so you're drawing your line above the tip of your nose. Like that. I'm also going to reinstate the line underneath the tip of my nose. So you can afford to go a little bit darker under there because no one's really going to be seeing under there too much, really. And I will be using the Real Techniques foundation brush, literally just to press that. Like you're barely even going to be touching that. You just don't want it to look like it's a line, you want it to look like a shadow. So I'm just really, really gently blending that in, that's enough. And I'm really gently blending in underneath the tip of my nose too. This next step is optional as well, and I wouldn't really recommend doing this if you do have a nose that you're quite uncomfortable with or you feel like it's a larger nose, because it will be highlighting it. So some people like to highlight their nose and they don't really feel like their look is finished without their nose being highlighted. I'll show you just so you know what to do in case you do decide to highlight it, but don't feel like you have to do this by any means. So to highlight my nose, I will be using my original foundation shade, taking a very small amount on the back of my hand like always, and with my original concealer angled brush that I used for my contouring lines, I'm going to take all the excess off onto the back of my hand. In theory, your hand should be clean if you're going to do this, and then I'm going to dab that into my highlight shade. And again, taking the excess off on the back of your hand, so just always remember to do that. Now what you're going to do is run that down the bridge of your nose, but don't put it over the top of the line that you did above the tip because then it's going to erase that. So stop before you get to that line. You can draw a little bit on the exact tip of your nose, just to give your nose that little flick shape again. So basically apply it from here up and right here. Taking my foundation brush, I'm just going to dab that in just to blend it out a wee bit. Okay, that's blended enough. What you need to do now is set that in place with a fine dusting of powder. So the powder I'm using is the Australis Fresh and Flawless Pressed Powder. On a big fluffy brush, I'm taking a small amount of that and tapping the excess off, and I'm going to press that into my nose. So don't rub because you're going to remove everything from underneath. So just really gently press that powder over your nose, and that's going to set that in place so that your contouring doesn't melt off. So thank you all for watching this video. I hope that you did find it helpful, and I hope that you will be able to take what you might have learned from this tutorial and apply it to your own nose so that you can kind of get it more to a shape that you're comfortable with. I do have an Instagram, so if you want to chat to me in the comments of Instagram, you can. You can also check out the makeup looks that I post there. I post daily. I'm always on Instagram. I have no life. My Instagram name is @StephanieLangMakeup, and I'll have that written down below, so if you didn't catch what I said, you can just go down there. And I hope to see you guys soon. Bye!